Nigeria is Africa's most populous nation, with cultural and media influence throughout the entire continent. But it's facing a conservation crisis. Its wildlife and national parks are highly endangered by poaching and illegal logging. It's the epicenter of the illegal trade in ivory and pangolin scales, with tons of products representing thousands of animals seized in recent times by customs. It has strong demand for illegal bushmeat that endangers animals and risks introduction of zoonotic disease. But Nigeria could be a conservation leader. With Lagos leading the way, Nigeria is updating its wildlife legislation. It's improving its wildlife law enforcement, and it's revolutionizing its public awareness. WildAid and its Nigerian partners are launching the largest ever conservation awareness program in Africa to drastically increase coverage of wildlife issues. Working with government agencies, working with the media, working with prominent Nigerian ambassadors.
Report suspicious activity and wildlife crime.
To promote Nigeria's national parks. To promote wildlife law enforcement. To raise awareness of the dangers of illegal bushmeat. And to promote alternatives. Nigeria can go from crisis to becoming a leader in conservation.
So let's do the right thing.
Tell your families and friends to say no to illegal bushmeat.
Keep them wild, keep them wild. Keep them wild, keep us safe.
And keep us safe.
And there's the start.
It's up that way.
Archbishop of basketball. Go! He hung on that net like a stalk up a tree. NTA Sports 24 brings you all sports.
President Buhari signs Nigeria Startups Bill 2022 into law.
Federal government enhances grid reliability with new transformers at Urele substations.
Ministry of Water Resources to carry out 6 water projects under multilateral and bilateral water projects in 2023.
Good morning, Nigeria. Today we will appraise issues arising from the just concluded 3rd Ministerial Performance Review Retreat.
Now, the essence of the ministerial retreat is to evaluate the scorecard of ministers along the federal government's priority agenda, identify performance levels and hindrances to implementation, learn from other countries, and also formulate strategies to accelerate execution and service delivery. This is in addition to examining transparency and the status of the implementation of priority projects.
Now, organized by the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the retreat was to generally review the progress of the Buhari administration and also serve as a mechanism for self-assessment of each ministry, evaluate progress made and measure the impact of work done in ensuring that the government remains focused in fulfilling its priority agenda as promised to the citizens.
Of course, the 9 priority agenda of the Buhari-led administration will include stabilizing the macroeconomy, achieve agriculture and food security, ensure energy sufficiency in power and petroleum products, improve transportation and other infrastructure, drive industrialization focusing on SMEs, health, education and productivity, enhance social inclusion and reduce poverty, corruption, and improving governance, and in improving security for all. And as President Buhari presides over the 3rd Ministerial Performance Review Retreat, he attributed successes recorded so far to the collective effort of all, and he of course recommits his administration's resolve to fighting corruption.
In addition, the president also explained that the country had witnessed 7 consecutive quarters of growth after negative growth rates that were recorded in 2020. Now, according to the president, the GDP grew by 3.54%. That's year on year in real terms in the second quarter of this year, 2022. Now, the growth rate represents a sustained positive economic performance, especially for the non-oil GDP, which fell by 4.7% in the second quarter of this year, as against other numbers that have been indicated.
And worthy of note, Kingsley, is of course the news of the expected takeoff of the Nigeria Air by December and the ongoing increase of electricity generation to 25,000 megawatts in 6 years with the arrival of the first batch of the transformers already in Nigeria. Laudable, you'll agree. But what should Nigerians expect from their ministries in terms of legacies as the administration winds down? And what specific change should Nigerians be expecting with the just concluded retreat? These and more are some of the questions and issues that Good Morning Nigeria will be seeking answers to as we review the just concluded Ministerial Performance Review Retreat for the 2022. My name is Kirian Umayo. Thank you for joining us.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I joined my colleague Kiria to also welcome you to the program live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We, of course, broadcasting from our Abuja headquarters studios. In the course of the program, we'll have our complimentary segments, and this, of course, newspaper review and business. For now, we join Tessie Omeri, who has the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Tessie.
Good morning, Kingsley. Hello, Kieran. Good morning, Nigerians, and here is the morning news. President Muhammadu Buhari has formally signed into law the Nigeria Startup Bill 2022, initiated by the executive input from the nation's tech startup ecosystem. The legislation seeks to harness the potential of the nation's digital economy and position Nigeria as a leading tech hub in Africa.
Government policies we have in place before assenting to the bill today, a lot has been achieved when it comes to providing the enabling environment for our young innovators. This law is all about to consolidate and to provide the legal and a strategic framework for the growth of the sector. For example, today in Africa, we have around 7 unicorns. 5 of them originated from Nigeria. Unicorn is an ICT company, a local ICT company that has a market value of a minimum of $1 billion USD. And all 5 of them attain this position of unicorn during the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. We visited each and every zone of Nigeria. We engaged our young innovators. We collected their inputs and we accommodated all these inputs into the law.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed says posterity will be fair to the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration. The minister stated this at a media briefing in Abuja.
NTA has attempted to play down the massive and unprecedented achievements of this government. Some presidential candidates have even released a poorly done photocopy of this administration's achievement as their own blueprints. For the series we are starting today, will leave them breathless and clueless as we cover all the achievements in the various sectors. Because we have so much to showcase, the frequency of these briefings will be high, and this will run through the remaining part of our tenure. Despite attempts in some circles to downplay the achievements of this administration,
Federal government assures electricity consumers of its commitment to enhancing bulk power delivery and grid reliability as more projects are being executed under the Nigerian electricity grid maintenance, expansion and rehabilitation program. This is coming as the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, installs and energizes new 150 MVA interbus transformers at Delta 4 substation, Ugeli, Delta State. In a statement by TCN states that energizing the new power transformer has restored the capacity of the substation by 130 megawatts, which will enable TCN to evacuate and wheel more power to Ugeli, Warri and other parts of the South region. The Ministry of Water Resources is to carry out 6 water projects worth 147.7 billion naira under multilateral and bilateral water projects in some states on 2023 as part of measures to reduce flooding. The Minister of Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu, stated this at the 2023 budget defense, where he also implored state governments to spend more on water resources and sanitation.
This year's flood, I can assure you, we cannot blame it on Cameroon, to be sincere. We'll continue to have floods on the river Niger and Benue basins until all those tributaries, even when they adapt, there will be, because the other component that I have not mentioned is that for hundreds of years we have been deforesting our land.
Nigeria is not restructuring her debt. This was disclosed by the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, this Wednesday, that is on Wednesday in Abuja. She disclosed this while giving a breakdown of over 20 trillion naira spending plan for the 2023 fiscal year. The government is also looking to restructure the NYSE to optimize diaspora participation.
Our solution is to just get out of this subsidy regime. Whichever way you cut it, the regulators now, the midstream, downstream regulatory authority has made a commitment that they are putting in place measures to be able to track the distribution of petroleum products to the fuel stations and report on the actual consumption.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority says it will not spare petrol stations found hoarding petroleum products. A team from the authority monitored petrol stations as part of efforts to ensure seamless product dispensation in Abuja.
We try to create alternative routes through the tracks through the bush. That's also very challenging, but we're working towards that. And those are the short-term measures we're looking at. Alternative evacuation routes. We had a 9,000 metric tons
vessel, MT Koroma, discharging in Calabar. We'll then discharge that. It will turn to about 10.2 million liters. In simple terms, more like over 200 trucks.
And that's the morning news. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Kieran and Kingsley after this time out. Stay with us.
Esther, you're late again.
She's a wandering light in the darkness. She's beautiful. Oh, she's a superstar. She never let her mama down. She's beautiful. She know they care. She know they ever got it for her.
No phones at the table, please.
Oh.
Esther.
Oh.
I love you too.
Don't forget I'll pick you up first.
I love you.
Airtel, the smartphone network. As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as the elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. If we want a stable society before, during, and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you? All Sundays and all Fridays, you are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. top tier follows. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message from the National Orientation Agency.
All right, thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Now it's time for business. Minister of State for Mines and Steel Development, Bureaucracy Saraki, said gemstones worth $3 billion are exported yearly from Nigeria, but with low revenue benefit returns. What is the implication of this to the nation's economy? Now let's join Aleka Obanachi Arwa for more.
Addressing the issue of illegal exportation of gemstones in Nigeria, Gbemisola Saraki said the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development will transform Nigeria from the consumer of foreign jewelry products to high-quality local jewelry producers to save the country of huge foreign exchange if gemstones are properly harnessed and processed. The minister lamented that although Nigeria is blessed with abundant mineral resources, with varieties of precious and semi-precious gemstones located across the country, many are eagerly exported out of the country in raw forms. She explained that with Nigeria's large population and the appetite for jewelry, creation of local industries that will meet substantial local demand and create jobs becomes imperative. Meanwhile, oil prices rose slightly on Wednesday amid plenty of caution as bullish signals like falling U.S. crude stocks and a generally undersupplied market were countered by bearish factors such as uncertain Chinese demand growth and falling gas prices. CNBC reports that Brent crude futures for December settlements rose 0.8% to $90.79 a barrel. Earlier in the session, Brent hit a low of $89.92. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude for November delivery, expiring on Thursday, was at $83.82 a barrel, up 0.9%. The December contract was at $82.92, up 1%. With business news, Alika Okpanachi, Arua.
That was a business news package, and we thank Alika Okparachi Arwa for the business news. Next is newspaper review.
All right, now time for us to do a review of some national dailies. Here we have about three papers: the Punch, New Telegraph, and of course Daily Trust. Let's begin with the New Telegraph newspaper. Senate summons Niger Delta Minister over plot to siphon 480 billion naira NDDC fund. With a rider to that assault, CCT Chair Sean Summon. The story is on pages 3 and 26 of New Telegraph. Over 300,000 unclaimed PVCs litter INEC offices in Delta. Commission demands data on PWDs. That's on page 2 or pages 2 and 3 of the New Telegraph. All right, we don't seem to have the Telegraph at this moment for you to see some of the the front page or the headlines that we're reading out. Maybe we'll just pause it for now and take the one that you can also share with us on the screen. And that's so. Let's go to the Punch newspaper. We may have to return to New Telegraph much later. Now to the Punch newspaper. Above the name flag of the Punch newspaper. NSAS states fail to compensate victims. Police warn protesters. That's on page 18. Federal government records over 5 trillion naira deficit in 8 months. It's on page 19. Telecoms fume as federal government orders a tariff hike reversal. It's on page 17. All right. 4,885 Ogun houses submerged. Federal government absolves Cameroon. It's on page 24. Kogi drags Dangote to court over Obajana ownership. The story is page 17. Now, the lead story on the Punch newspaper this morning, PDP crisis. Aggrieved NWC members protest exclusion from presidential campaigns. 3 riders to that. National women leader writes protest letter. Vice chairman chieftains lament. That is a deliberate attempt to sideline Southerners, claims Bode George. Wike or Tom Makinde, others not bigger than party, says pro-IU NWC member. All right, now the photo story is on the tuning of by NEMA. NEMA trains core members in disaster management. Now, the bottom of the Punch newspaper, 15 die in Sokoto boat accident. Some 18. We're beginning to have rampant boat accidents in Nigeria. Last week it was in Anambra State.
That's right.
And elsewhere. Now it's at Sokoto. Is it because of this flood or something? Perhaps the water level and the current,
Current, that's one. And then the operators in particular. Sometimes overloading and some of those water vessels are not fit for purpose.
Exactly. Well, they're old. Benue headers on reprisal kill a policeman and 16 residents. Benue headers on reprisal kill policemen, 16 residents. And it's on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. Abuja, Nasarawa fuel queues worsen. Federal government increases supply. That's on page 19.
Okay, Kieran, we also take a look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust newspaper, below the nameplate, we'll take 2 of these headlines. They are buried there and say, still in captivity. 11 schoolgirls of FGC Bernie Yauri, they've been in captivity for 490 days. 1 student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, 463 days. And brain drain. Nigeria left with 24,000 doctors. That's attributed to the Nigerian Medical Association. Nigeria left with 24,000 doctors. NNPC spent 788 billion naira on salaries, forex, entertainment, and others. Details of that story you find on page 21. And let me just take some of the highlights from that story on page 21. And this is, of course, according to the 2021 financial audit of the company, that the NNPC had an expenditure of over 388.4 billion for staff salaries, but that, of course, what then took place was that the other items of expenditure accounted for the balance of nearly 400 billion 400 billion naira. Overall, according to the report, the company said it recorded 6.4 trillion naira income. This was higher than 3.7 trillion naira it made in the preceding year, but that it spent 5.3 trillion naira in 2021 as cost of sales of petroleum products and so on and so forth. So you can find the details of the story there. Some of the numbers are a bit jumbled in terms of the arrangement. But on page 21, you find the details of how NNPC is reported according to the audit report to have spent 788 billion naira on salaries, forex, entertainment, and others. Staggering. Almost a trillion.
Exactly.
Almost a trillion. Now, ripples in APC as Adamu replaces suspended rectors. That story is inside. Federal government recalls 5.33 trillion naira deficit, missed revenue target by 34%. Oil revenue target dips by 72.9% to convert 20 trillion naira CBN loans to 40-year bond. Subsidy hampering revenue growth. That's according to Finance Minister. All these stories, of course, are coming out of the appropriation breakdown that was given by the Finance Minister yesterday with regard to what the government intends to spend and earn in 2023. And the composite photographs there on the front page show the ordeal of motorists in the Federal Capital Territory. Petrol hawkers are having a field day, and stations having very few pumps operating because they don't have sufficient supplies. Second Niger Bridge completed. Abuja, Kaduna, Kano Road, 50%. That's according to Fashola. Now, when the minister says Second Niger Bridge completed, that is the bridge itself. The access roads have not been done. That's, of course, you have to have access roads before you get to the bridge.
I need to have more details on that, because I thought that they even started with the access roads, leading to the bridge.
No, according to the minister, while briefing yesterday at the National Press Center, it did say that there were delays now, occasioned, of course, by the heavy rains and the flooding, and there have been some washouts of the aspects of the access roads that were previously constructed from the Asaba end and also from the Onitsha end. So they're going to have to work on those ones once the current inclement.
And it's indeed a long stretch. I mean,
some kilometers. Yes, some kilometers, by the way, before you get to the bridge proper. You already read this. Buhari signs Nigeria startups bill into law. I'll appeal judgment to reaffirm my victory. That's according to Binani. Now, the story is on page 37. Now, this is very interesting, Kirian. At the conclusion of the party primaries for the governorship, one woman emerged as the sole female governorship candidate throughout the country. And that's Senator Aishatu Binani in Adamawa State of the All Progressives Congress. Now, last week, the Federal High Court in Yola nullified the APC primaries. And this was on account of a writ that was filed by one of the contestants for that seat. That's Nuhu Ribadu, former EFCC chair. Now, the reason why Binani is now saying that she's going to appeal is that the judgment disallowed the elections because, nullified the election because the judge, in his considered opinion, held that the elections, that's the primary elections, were not conducted in accordance with the guidelines of the political party itself. But that the judge did not then give an option for the conduct of fresh primaries. So she says she's going on appeal for that particular purpose. So was
that judgment a complete judgment? When judgment did not make reference to what next, as you pointed out. Would you say that the judgment was well taken?
You're asking me as a lawyer.
You're a lawyer. That's why I asked you. Because you can't take a look. Because he has created what people call lacuna again in that judgment.
Well, most respectfully, His Lordship has given the decision in his considered opinion that look, you didn't conduct your primaries according to your own guidelines. So it's a nullity. Now, if the judge did not then proceed to say conduct fresh primaries, as you would find in some other judgments given by courts of coordinate jurisdiction, in some other jurisdictions, it provides an opportunity which one of the contestants now said, I will explore by going on appeal. And their lordships on appeal would take a view of it.
In other words, that the appellant did not ask for it. He did not ask for
the conduct of the court. It is often said the court is not a Father Christmas. I mean, if you do not make a prayer for a specific thing, the court will not donate it to you. Yeah, so that's. But these are issues that they will consider. They are hard. So, but you don't expect me to be presiding.
And it's difficult for Nigerians to understand some of these things. So that's why I had to raise it.
But I feel, Kieran, that's why I also said that in some other decided cases by courts of coordination, Federal High Court, they will say, okay, as in Yobe, they say, look, you didn't conduct your elections, not the one concerning the senatorial primary. So you say you didn't, State House of Assembly, you didn't conduct your primaries according to your own guidelines. So those elections you conducted were nullified, but then so reconduct them during the time within 14 days and so on and so forth. Yes.
Okay, now let's return to the New Telegraph. I've taken some stories before we got the extra copies that you can share with us. Well, Ekiti Speaker Apuye dies at 66. That's one of the historical. That's below the name flag of the New Telegraph. Sanwo-Olu commissions 150 classroom blocks, hostels in 15 Lagos schools. So page 28. Now, the lead story on the New Telegraph: Minister disagrees with senators over cost of flooding. It says Cameroonian dam not responsible, though country notified Nigeria 24 hours after opening spillway. And that's a clear indication that, of course, we are beginning to constantly, raise issue or concerns about the source of the flood. For me, flood has come, and what we should do is to, try and see how we can remedy the situation, find some, actions to be taken to ensure that it's either that the flood is utilized in some ways, or that people are assisted, those who have been displaced, are assisted. All right, ways and means federal government authorities securitization of CBN's 20 trillion naira debt. I don't understand that, Kinsley. Securitization of CBN's 20 trillion naira debt. I wonder what that meant.
But I read that the way Daily Trust couched it, to say they are converting the loans, 20 trillion naira loans, into 40-year bonds. That's securitization.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that it could take a longer period of time
for repayment.
That's how we put it, so that Nigerians will understand what that is all about.
I think that we're getting pressed now. We've taken the New Telegraph, the Punch, as well as Daily Trust, where there will be other stories, of course, we're taking a look. And just by the way, to inform our viewers, because on Monday, on Good Morning Nigeria, when, of course, we were discussing the events of the weekend, I of course expressed that view very strongly, that the Zamfara state government had no powers whatsoever to purport to order the closure of the business premises of the Nigerian Television Authority, Federal Radio Corporation, and 2 other private stations on account of what the government said was a breach of the law in the performance of the media duties. That the regulation, of course, of the broadcast industry is the responsibility of the NBC. Now, the Zamfara state government, through one of its officials, has apologized formally for that closure, and said that, of course, assuming there were persons who had been deployed to carry out that illegal order, they have been withdrawn from proceeding with the enforcement of that illegality that, of course, had raised a great deal of furore from stakeholders.
Of course, that shouldn't have happened in the first place. I mean, under normal circumstances, a federal establishment, a state government will close it down without, no. It's not. I'm happy the state government has apologized. That's most important. But please let nobody try that. I mean,
all right. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we're live on NTA's network service, broadcasting from our Abuja headquarters studios. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be reviewing aspects of the third ministerial performance review retreat.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as the elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
We've been trying our best to contain the situation. In our operations, we've been able to make a lot of recoveries. We've been able to also arrest suspects that are involved in this kind of activities. And we've been able to also recover, particularly arms and ammunition, from those who are carrying it unlawfully and disturbing the peace of the people. But generally, our morale in the Nigerian police is always guided by our commitment to do what we have sworn to do. Peace and security must be looked into as a priority by all, to look at security as the business of all of us.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
We are all Nigerians. Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our problems, and setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or feel. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who is a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA Network. And to set the tone for the appraisal of the third ministerial performance review retreat, let's now join Oyemi Ajayi for this report.
This signing by President Muhammadu Buhari of the Executive Order 12 to institutionalize the culture of transparency and accountability for good governance in Nigeria brings to an end the two-day retreat aimed at closing the gaps towards delivering legacy projects, promoting sustainable economic growth, and improving the living standards of Nigerians. And as the President says, it has been a well-spent 2 days of reflection and lesson learning aimed at reviewing progress and agreeing on key actions that will ensure that his administration finishes well. President Buhari therefore issued specific directives to the ministries overseeing key sectors of the nation's economy to step up, double their efforts, and work in synergy towards total delivery of his administration's set targets. The retreat, he says, helped everyone to clearly identify what needs to be done and how best to get it done as the administration begins winding down.
Let me use this opportunity to appeal to the National Assembly to fast-track the consideration and passage of key legislative bills as agreed during the panel session. This will serve as our collective legacy towards entrenching key reforms that will serve as a springboard for the next administration.
And the commencement of the electioneering campaigns towards the next general elections notwithstanding, the President says all ministers, permanent secretaries, and heads of government agencies must remain focused in the discharge of their duties.
Any infraction will be viewed very seriously. Our collective goal is to map out a transition plan for the incoming administration to ensure proper documentation of all the policies, programs, and projects of government with up-to-date status of implementation.
During the closing ceremony, Finance Minister Zainab Ahmed gave an overview of Nigeria's National Development Plan. Chief of Defense Staff General Lucky Irabo discussed the imperative of national security as it affects national development, while Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, made public recommendations from the retreat as well as the next steps.
The Nigeria Agenda 2050 is a prospective plan designed to transform Nigeria into an upper middle income country with an average GDP growth of $12 trillion by the year 2050.
There has to be a depoliticization of security issues such that we think Nigeria and act Nigeria.
The Central Delivery and Coordinating Unit will support Mr. President to track all the commitments made in these sessions and report on our progress before the end of the administration's tenure.
All right, thank you very much, Adamu Sambo, our State House correspondent, for that background report. With us here in the studios now to discuss issues around the review retreat, would like to welcome the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Dr. Muhammad Mahmoud Abubakar. Honorable Minister, we're glad to have you this morning in our studios.
Thank you.
Also here with us in the studios is the Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Osagie Ehanire. Honorable Minister, we're glad to have you this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen. Yes, you're most welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right, let's begin with you, Honorable Minister of Health, because of course, within the period that you have been in the saddle and the Minister of Health, Nigeria, as other countries did as well, experienced COVID-19 and other health challenges that we've had in the past, even before you took office as Minister of Health. But we are doing a kind of evaluation of what it has been, a kind of scorecard with respect to the retreats that we are talking about. So give us a sense of how it has been in this sector with respect to adequate provision of health services to Nigerians.
Well, yeah, the COVID-19 pandemic brought out new perspectives on how healthcare should be delivered and also how the health sector should prepare itself. But it also allowed us to have opportunity to improve on the health system, to improve on service delivery, to reappraise our needs, preparedness against any other infection. And after, of course, you discover you are able to diagnose the infections, you must be able to attend and respond to it. So the health system has improved, has benefited a lot. There's been quite a good investment in health, in oxygen generating plants, in laboratories, and also in the development of interest around manufacturing of commodities. So on the whole, it's been positive, but there's also a way to go in reshaping the health structure, the primary, secondary, and tertiary level of care, and also what do you do when you have an emergency? If you have a problem, what do you do? So we are trying to address all of those issues and make the health sector stronger and better than we met it.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Minister. But incidentally, you both have been in office for some years. Honorable Minister, you were, of course, were Minister of State in the first term of President Buhari, climbing up to become substantive minister in his second term. So you've been around for 7 years next month, and then Honorable Minister of Agriculture, you were previously in the Ministry of Environment. Tell us, from your own perspective, what is the utility of a performance review of this nature? I mean, what did you get from the optics and even from the interactions? Let's begin first with Honorable Minister of Agric.
Thank you. Well, this is really quite a strategic way to measure the productivity of each sector, but most importantly also to be able to put people on track, because at the very first one, the second one, and now the third is an opportunity for you to look back the previous year and see what have you gained, what were the pitfalls, how do you now improve those. It's all part of that particular assessment. And this third one is of course no different than the first and the second. When I was in the Ministry of Environment, of course, during the first retreat, we were able to see what we have gained and what we have done. And this is, of course, every step of the way. Is not just the ministry itself that is doing this. You also look at your collaboration with other MDAs, international organizations, the private sector, the civil society, and the community down at the community level. So it's really an interesting way and strategic to be able to know what you are doing and you can scale up. And we have done that during the when I was in environment. We were able to increase our nationally determined contributions, because the first promise we made was to reduce emission by 20%. And we were able to scale that to also increase ambition from 45 to 47 before the last conference of parties in Glasgow. So this has been, I can say, a very good tool for this administration to be able to scale up the objectives of the administration.
Okay, over the years we've been having what we call then ministerial briefings, which is a platform where the ministers, come to address the nation on certain, projects and development strides that have been able to, impact on Nigerians. All right, now let's look at Nigeria as a nation, as a developing nation. Which of course had some kind of a checkered political history, which also affected adversely our developmental trajectory. But with this administration, having taken a giant leap, into infrastructural development, into some other, social services projects, that Nigerians are beginning to enjoy today, would you say that we have gotten to a level where we can say, look, that in the health sector, for instance, that we can, be proud of our hospitals in terms of equipment, in terms of facilities, in terms of, trained personnel in different facets of medical services and what have you?
Yes, we have. I think that this administration has shown certain yardsticks in nation building, in consciously coordinating development across the board in education, agriculture, health sector, and industrialization, electricity, roads, infrastructure, railway, and so on. It's been a very conscious effort, and these reviews we have had now, the third review now, give us opportunity to not only to showcase achievements, but also to recalibrate our efforts and look back at what we have done, how effective it has been, and how to improve on processes and methods. But for the health sector, the broad objectives are first and foremost to extend coverage to as many Nigerians as possible. That's what you call universal health coverage. How many people enjoy even the slightest benefit of health care? And that is where the effort to build up the primary healthcare system and then the basic healthcare provision funds to provide service, and which also supports productivity, because the fewer days of illness you have, or fewer days of illness members of your family have, the more you can produce, the more you can work, the more the farmer can go to work. So it has a knock-on effect on all areas. And also, of course, the quality of healthcare. So first of all, the spread and coverage, and then the quality, the absolute quality and reorganization of the personnel and the deliverables. We have had 9 deliverables from 9 priority areas, and the healthcare has done well, again stimulated by the COVID-19 pandemic, which woke us up and also woke up donors and contributors to the health sector. And we have used the opportunity to expand the infrastructure and also improve on the quality of delivery.
In general, Honorable Minister of Agri, what were the takeaways in terms of performance management and coordination bearing in mind that one of the major issues that we've had as a country over the years has sometimes been MDAs working in silos and poor coordination. So what is emerging from these retreats in terms of coordination? Are we getting it right now? And if so, what are the instances?
Yeah, really the takeaway in this last, the last ministerial performance is that there has been greater coordination, even with the Ministry of Agriculture. We have three major ministries that we are working with, and we have an inter-ministerial committee and some other MDAs that we are working with. For example, Water Resources, Ministry of Environment, work with Ministry of Health, Humanitarian Affairs, of course, Finance, Budget and National Planning. So really there has been greater cooperation, and this, I believe, is from the previous ministerial performance retreat. Yes, indeed, ministries were working in silos from the beginning, and that has caused a lot of shortcoming and even achieving the productivity. Now, the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, when we work together with Environment, with Water Resources, because these are three ministries in particular that are intertwined. The same thing with Ministry of Health. We realize that yes, we can achieve a lot more because they have areas that they have more expertise than us, but that is part of our own mandate. So it's really a good way of recalibrating, looking at the performance, looking at what have you achieved. And we realize that also that working with international organizations, with private sector, by itself also that kind of cooperation. We have concession a number of jetties working with private sector, and we realize that we have gained more than being operated by the ministry. And all of this came out of the previous performance review. So it's really an excellent way of scaling up things by working together.
All right, sir. Talking about scaling up things and working together, to what extent, has this synergy that my colleague, asked of working, because some of us have had the privilege, of reporting different ministries and the parastatals under different ministries. For instance, you mentioned water resources that surely must synergize with the Ministry of Agriculture because you need irrigation, you need water and other water-related facilities. But again, in reality, in practical reality, some of the agencies under these ministries, do they have that collaboration that you are talking about? Because I am also aware that there are research institutes in this country churning out research results and what have you. But of course, to move that research result from the laboratory, to elsewhere when they can be practically put into practice, becomes a problem. And meanwhile, the process should have been from one agency to another, inter-ministerially, so to speak. So, are you satisfied with what has happened so far with respect to synergy, not just in agriculture, because you're being in environment,
right? Yes, I am. Really, there has been great improvement. In my first year as minister, of course, 2019, yes, we have had issues. Even intra-ministerial cooperation itself at some point has some issues. Even departments, interdepartmental. For example, when I got to Agri, I realized some departments are quarreling or issues. Okay, this is my mandate or this is this. No, I mean, we are talking about bringing it out so that we can improve. But with the ministerial performance retreat, because what happens is your ministry will be looked at and rated department by department, if you will, or sector within one ministry. Have you done well in, for example, extension services? That is under Ministry of Agri. Have you done well in fees? That is farm input services. Have you done well in this? So you will see, if not, why? Is extension having issues with fees? Extension are the ones that, of course, go there to provide the education, the result of the research and innovation from the various institutes, not just within Ministry of Agriculture, but also from other areas like science and technology, which we also work with. So that has been brought out, and we understand even within a ministry there must be collaboration, and then there must be interministerial. So when I was in environment, equally we have this interministerial like ministries that need to work together and share research. Yes, under our own ministry we have this various research institute, and we make sure that whenever the result of all these researches come out, they are distributed, disseminated to those that need it. Because what's the point of getting the result and then keeping it or not sharing it? So things have improved in that respect, intra and inter.
So what about quarantine service? Is also part of the Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes.
But we don't hear much about quarantine service. We happen to have done something together with quarantine service. We begin to, that was when I realized the importance, the relevance, the strategic importance of quarantine service. Because for you to export any agricultural produce, it has to pass through, they have to pass through quarantine and all of that. But we don't seem to be hearing much about quarantine when we're talking about agricultural development in this country. What did you observe within the period you've been in agriculture?
You are right. They are not had so much, but they do so much. One quick example I will give you is we had a trip to Washington, D.C., I think about 6-7 months ago with the quarantine service. And that is when you will realize that, yes, their job is highly critical. And when we went and resolved all those issues, just 2-3 months after, the U.S. government was able to lift some restrictions on some of our produce that were banned previously, realizing and getting the data and everything from quarantine service. So here within the country, yes, you don't hear so much about them, but they are very highly critical because they are the ones that checkmate what comes in terms of crops that can come. I mean, some can be invasive species of certain crops that will come and maybe deplete the fertility of the soil or something. Quarantine is that, or things that are really not in the best quality. The quarantine service is also responsible for that. It's a very strategic agency. We are strengthening them and giving them all the necessary requirement to be able to carry out their function. And they are at every point of entry, seaports or airports and places like that. We will educate people to know really the importance of the quarantine service and upscale their visibility.
Okay, thank you very much. But honorable ministers, I mean, let's be frank. No minister is a superman or a superwoman, and therefore you cannot perform all the duties and tasks under your mandate as a ministry all alone. But we realize at the federal and also at the state level, the often antagonistic relationship between the political appointees, namely the minister, and then the bureaucracy. So that's occasionally you had issues around public service reforms, how you can get the bureaucracy to get in to be on the same page with the political vision of the administration. Is this a matter that has come up for review at any of the retreats, more particularly this latest retreat? Because I do know that there have been complaints in the past, not necessarily under this administration, but we do know that there have been complaints about the impediments posed by sometimes frosty relationships between the political appointee, namely the Honorable Minister, and then the bureaucracy represented by the Permanent Secretary, Directors, and others. Honorable Minister of Health first.
Well, you are right. That's a very interesting point you are bringing up, and it is also one of the tests of maturity of the leader of the ministry to get some harmony between his own programs and also the productivity of the civil service, let's call it, the bureaucracy. The administration, every new administration comes in with its own program, with its own ideas, with its own philosophy, and with its programs. And the ministers, the political class, develop ideas and discuss them with bureaucracy, and the bureaucracy is supposed to run with it and implement. But you do sometimes find resistance in the sense that once they see something that's different from what they are doing, they begin to slow down. You do see things like that. So the challenge is to manage and encourage those who work with you to understand that the administration is not just getting things done the way you do it from day to day, but being open to new ideas. And every government that comes with its own program is going to have to make changes. And then once you discuss those changes and understand, everybody runs with it. So part of what the minister has to do is to manage those he works with and to be able to put them to understand the programs of the new administration.
Yes, I agree, and I'm glad he said yes. Sometimes you find friction, there is. You said during this particular review, performance review, it has not been mentioned, not quite, but usually from the beginning of every tenure, the very first retreat will be when it will be hammered in the relationship between the ministers and the permanent secretaries, of course, in particular, those are the two, and then down with other civil servants. Yes, you do have resistance. Sometimes maybe from the beginning it may, because of lack of understanding, and then the bureaucrats have their own set of ways of doing things, whether it's right or wrong sometimes. You know how people are resistant to change no matter what. So, but in the end, as he has mentioned, we find the best way to do it, because you will realize if there is really serious tension between permanent secretary and the minister and the directors, things don't go very well. And in the end, who suffers really is the productivity, is the people that get the goods and services. But yes, it is incumbent upon the minister to take the lead, because it's the political leader, is the policy leader in that respect, even though the permanent secretary is the one who is the guru of the civil service functions and things like that. I think it has gotten better from the very first administration, 2015, and then this 2019 to date. I think a lot of that has been trashed out. You may still have pockets, but for the most part, I think I'm satisfied.
Yes, you just raised a point that made me to recall an incident, one of the nation's embassies outside Nigeria. I'm not going to mention that. But, we came there for a purpose, and we were supposed to conduct an interview, with the ambassador, Nigerian ambassador to that country, and we realized that he was not on seat. But the second ambassador, which of course was the career ambassador, so to speak, the other person was the political ambassador, they explained to us, said, look, that he didn't even know that the political ambassador traveled out of the country, traveled out of that country, and so on. So there was no coordination between him, the political one, and of course the career ambassador. So it was so glaring, that it was still happening. Well, like you said, it's not just this administration, this is the kind of thing that we see.
Sometimes, Kiri, and the honorable ministers know this. It's the relationships can get so antagonistic that ministers will request the transfer or redeployment of permanent secretaries.
Absolutely.
Yes, but the honorable minister of Agric says, look, these matters have been passed out, and then the relationship is going on well. I see the honorable minister of Health, you are smiling. You have any
now, your portfolio is on the concurrent list, right? And yours as well, agriculture. So yes. The states are on their own, either to key into the federal government policy on health or on agriculture or not. So I want to bring in, the functionality of the subnationals, in this respect, especially the two portfolios, right? So would you say that you've received a collaboration or partnership, if you like, with the state governments in terms of ensuring that the federal government policy on health is cascaded, down to the ordinary Nigerian, in the rural areas?
Well, that's another relationship that has to be managed. We have 36 states plus one. And not all of the states will have the same interests or the same emphasis on the same programs. So you find some who are very interested in health sector. In fact, they are going ahead and doing a lot of things in your pace or even beyond the pace that you are recommending. And there are others who probably have more other interests. So again, it's the responsibility of the minister to try and emphasize the urgency of certain areas of your program, in our case, the healthcare. First, to make sure that health coverage is spread around to as many people as possible. Universal health coverage, everybody has a right to now say it's a right, it's a civil right to have health care. So how many people are getting it? It's also for the benefit of the country that people are healthy and are able to work and able-bodied. And then, of course, the quality of healthcare should improve to a level where people don't have to distrust the health system so much as to start looking for treatment abroad. But again, it's the same, it relates to the same question as earlier, in that when people are used to doing things a particular way, and you come with a new way, even though it's much better, they are not going to look, they think it's the wrong way because they know only just one way. And unless you are able to persuade them of the advantages and the benefits of this new way, you don't get maximum cooperation. So it's a continuous effort that you continue to bring in. People are suspicious of any change in the routine that they are used to. So the management, by and large, of relationship with states, it works well in the sense that we're able to achieve certain understanding. But you can't help wishing that things were faster and smoother and going at a better rate than you can get. You want to go at a faster pace, but the system sort of slows you down. Yes.
Yeah, Kieran, let the Honourable agree.
This is quite an interesting issue we are talking about, and I have experienced this every step of the way up till now. When I was chairman Universal Basic Education Commission, so this is even under education, you will have states that may not pay their own counterpart funding for certain project, which is extremely important to the state. So like he said, sometimes a state will prioritize one thing over what you think should be prioritized. So, but again, you have to manage. You have to find ways, best ways to work with that state. For the most of it, because they think they are independent or they are independent, what they want is what they want. I have experienced that. Now, the same thing in environment. Here, just yesterday, I had a meeting with IFA, that's the International Fund for Agricultural Development, on some states that have not paid their counterpart funding on certain project. And this is all across the country. At some point, you will have one state here, 2, 3. Again, you manage that because you don't want to abandon because 1 or 2 or 3 states, you have to continue with that particular project. And is to emphasize the importance of this to the people of that state and by and large to the whole country, because there are certain projects you need to have them working in harmony all across the state. I think if you go nice and easy, of course, knowing that they have the right to or not to even participate in the project. We have that here.
Sorry, Honourable Minister, I'm sorry to jump in here because what Kieran has raised is a matter that we've often focused on Good Morning Nigeria. I mean, when you talk about agric, for instance, in Nigeria, hardly do you hear state governments beat their chest to say this is what we are doing, this is what we are accomplishing in agriculture. Yesterday we were talking about just fisheries, for instance, how to utilize the dams for fisheries. Why is it that every time we talk about agric, the matter is always on the head of the federal government? If the federal government doesn't lift a finger, nothing appears to be going on. Where we can hear some of them talking about security, IDP camps, and so on and so forth, others flying all over the place. And what about agric? Where are the agricultural produce from their areas? Opening up of the rural areas, how are they dealing on their own, for instance, with post-harvest losses? Why is this so? This matter may be tangential, but at the end of the day, because we'll come to that issue again of food security, why are we not hearing so much from the subnational entities?
Well, I just mentioned that they have their interests. Let me give you an example. We have, in livestock, for example, we have the NLTP, the National Livestock, Livestock Transformation Program. State will have to express interest. You cannot impose it on them. So they will express interest right to the ministry. We will now key them in. And this is a program where the federal government will pay this and the state will just pay, let's say 60-40. Some state may not want to put their 40 in that because they think they have other areas that they want to, and you cannot force it on them. We have the LPRES also, the livestock productivity plan also, which is also to support the NLTP. So there are programs like that. This state are independent entities and they express interest where they want to, but the federal government is there to support. We have all the various departments. You just mentioned fisheries, we have that. You mentioned, and then livestock, we have that. Of course, crop, we have that. Everything that you can think of in agri, we have departments that are responsible. And of course, most of all, the extension service agent, which we have trained so many and deployed. And these are people that will go and disseminate information, educate the people at the subnational, of course. So we have that. But sometimes is the state, until they show interest, you cannot impose it on them. But collectively, what we are supposed to do is to make sure that the productivity, the agri sector, we have enough food. That's the food security and nutrition that we are talking about in the country. So again, we are managing all that. And there are a lot of states really that are producing lots and lots of food. But you cannot bring everybody on the table at the same time doing the same thing.
Well, that's it's not, Kira, I mean, it can be disconcerting. Like the example, the Honorable Minister was talking about UBEC, the counterpart funding that state governments are supposed to provide. One thing that ICPC has also uncovered, state governments are required to pay their counterpart funding. Let us say it's ₦1 million. So a state government puts 1 million into an account, UBEC puts its 1 million into the account. So you need 2 million to execute that particular project. It's on the face of it, it's done. But what has happened, and what is happening according to the ICPC, is that the state government will then withdraw its own 1 million and go and use it for another purpose, other than for the purpose that it was originally intended.
That is true. Yes, but in terms of state governments, who are interested in agriculture, I'll give you to Kebbi State, when it comes to rice. I also give you to Ebonyi State, in rice production.
Cross River.
The Cross River, those who have, as a matter of fact, Cross River has in fact used the deployed technology in rice production. That's a good one, and all that. Now let's go to some specifics. The Honorable Minister of Health. I'm always wondering why we don't have specialist hospitals in this country, like heart hospital, like cancer centers, and perhaps other specialist hospitals that would be like eye, and all of that. And again, why is it that we're still lacking in terms of machinery, or if you like, or perhaps equipment, required in hospitals? And again, there are, the issues concerning the private sector, who, some of them have difficulty in clearing some of the hospital equipment that have imported into the country. There is this high tariff on them, and some are delayed, beyond belief, and what have you. Some doctors have told us on this program how they had issues. They spent about 2 months or thereabout, bringing in the equipment. They will spend 3 or 4 months to clear it, from Nigerian ports. Such important equipment, for health. Now, we've been interested in talking about vaccine production in Nigeria, which is part of the, fallout, with the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's do an overview of these.
Well, let's start with the vaccines. In the first place, the effort to restart the vaccine production capability was going on just even before the COVID-19 pandemic broke. And that again emphasized the urgency to have manufacturing capacity. The federal government has interest, along with the private sector, in a company that is going to be producing vaccines. First of all, routine vaccines, but also more seriously, a new generation of vaccines, the mRNA vaccines, based vaccines, in which we have put a lot of faith and understanding here with the COVID-19 pandemic. The technology is new, and we are talking with those who own technology to acquire it and then use it to prepare for other kinds of arising pathogens later on, and also to address certain things that are peculiar to our own area here. In fact, there's a summit coming up very soon in abroad in the Orient somewhere where the president himself is going. He's very interested in this area, in manufacturing, commodities generally for the health sector, because our population deserves that we should have manufacturing capacity. We can't continue importing. And that goes from simple things like masks, protective equipment, to laboratories and so on. So that effort is ongoing, and we're also encouraging pharmaceutical industry to key into expanding their production to acquire technology. We're working with the largest vaccine manufacturer in the world in India to give us technology. It requires technology transfer, and that is going on that side. But as for specialty hospitals, yes, we do have specialty hospitals. We have a national ear, nose and throat hospital. We have a national eye center, both in Kaduna. We also see that most of our teaching hospitals, in fact, all of them, have the specialties we have mentioned now, specialties in almost all areas. And we encourage them to continue to expand and have the specialties in every teaching hospital. So every state generally has specialties, and you find that in federal medical centers too. The other specialty hospitals we have, as you know, they are orthopedic hospitals, specialized. The president recently approved 3 new ones to join the 3 existing ones. So you now have 1 orthopedic hospital in every geopolitical zone that is going to be taking care of orthopedic and trauma injury cases, super specialized. That's super specialty. And we have neuropsychiatric hospitals too, at least 1 in every geopolitical zone. So we do have that, but we encourage more and more specialties to come in and to also, we have a program to also start utilizing the expertise of Nigerians who are abroad, because many of the Nigerians who have left this country to work abroad have acquired new skills and technology, cutting-edge skills. And how do we make use of that? Nowadays, it's possible to have virtual consultations, to have virtual lectures, and we are working on the diaspora program to get those who are interested there, who have the capacity to start supporting technology and skills development back here in Nigeria. We call that converting brain drain to brain gain. So Nigerian doctors, and in fact those who are not Nigerians too, have been talking to us about being able to transfer knowledge and skills to our experts here in Nigeria to expand the range of capacity that is available. As for those who are importing, yes, I think it's very important to always remember the chain. If you are importing private hospitals or any other importer of equipment, that you prepare to process your goods even before they arrive. So you don't start processing when you hear that they have arrived. So if you start early enough, you can have a smooth chain. But if your goods have arrived before you start applying for all sorts of concessions, you have a delay. So taking the value chain into consideration is very important in importation. And besides, there are certain rules, there are concessionary rates now for those who are importing equipment, medical equipment, they are concessionary. But those who are going to be waived completely from paying any kind of duties are those who are donating. So if you are donating equipment to Nigeria, then definitely we will not give you a waiver. But those who are importing for commercial use, they are already concessionary rates that are on the ground for them, and they don't need to be looking for waivers when it's going to be used for commercial purpose.
Let me quickly ride on this, Honorable Minister of Health. About a week ago on Good Morning Nigeria, we had another conversation on the issue of cancer. And one of the takeaways from that interaction was the slogan. I think Kieran and I were together on the program. Do for cancer what you did for COVID. Is it possible?
No, that's not possible. They are not on the same level at all, because COVID is an infectious disease and it spreads like wildfire, and it's now being contained. But cancer is one of those non-communicable diseases that develop over the years. Has its own.
Can you do 50%, if not 100% of what you did for COVID?
Well, I mean, something's being done already.
In terms of mobilizing resources, and in terms of paying attention, in terms of centers.
Yes, of course, there are centers. The president just approved, some time ago, approved resources for 8 additional cancer treatment centers. 8. So that's a lot. And we are working on that, on being able to deliver all those 8 within the time of this administration, after we've cleared around all the base groundwork around it. So treatment centers are expanding, they are increasing. And but you see, in something like that, it's not just acquiring the equipment. You have to acquire the knowledge to maintain, the knowledge to operate efficiently, and also the organization to back it up, because radiation alone is generally not all. You also need chemotherapy, or might need even oncology. So do you have the personnel? So we have to do a lot of training of personnel. Medical physicists, for example, are important in every one of these, and we don't have enough of them. So the working with diaspora is going to help us to train more, to gain more experience. So we have to have the manpower to go along with this equipment, and then the maintenance capability and culture. We now signed service agreement with those who are supplying us this equipment to make sure that the maintenance, the life cycle of the machine is used long enough. So the government is paying attention to cancer care. And but on the other side, we are also trying to emphasize measures to prevent cancer, to reduce the incidence, and secondly, for early detection. So the earlier you can detect it, the easier the treatment, and the more you can prevent it, the fewer the cases. Okay, we hear, for example, that there is just anecdotal evidence, report that there's an increase of cancers in Niger Delta area. We're still studying that. Why is there an increase in incidence? Has it got to do with pollution around there, with hydrocarbons or heavy metals that are used in the oil industry, or with the environmental degradation that's going on there? So those things are being pursued. If there are preventive measures that can be taken, we take them to prevent rather than to start curing.
Okay. Honorable Minister, thank you. Let's bring in again the Honorable Minister of Agric. Food security. What is our book saying?
Food security and nutrition. Nigeria has really augmented, upgraded, and increased agricultural productivity really since the beginning of this administration. And we can see that clearly because His Excellency, Mr. President, made agric one of his really core areas of improvement during this last 7 years. And we can see that even from the contribution of agric to the GDP since 2015 to date. It has been way in the upper 20, 24, 25%, 26%. This last GDP, the statistics showed that is the number one sector that contributed to the GDP and by far. Food production, we have had a lot of storage of grains in our silos, even currently, even though Mr. President has approved the release of 70,000 metric tons during the COVID, has approved another 42,000 metric tons that is currently even still being reduced, and still our silos. I can say we do not have food shortage currently in Nigeria. Yes, elevated prices, yes, but that's like I said, a world phenomenon for a number of reasons. One, that's still the effect of COVID that we just talked about. Up till now, supply chains, supply lines have not opened completely for raw materials, for grains, shipment, and all that. Of course, climate change, we know, is wreaking havoc on the, in the world, but it's also affecting many things, particularly including agriculture, like the flood we are facing currently. And of course, there's one other area that is also affecting currently, but we have improved production for the last 7 years, like I have said. Yes, of course, COVID has contributed, and climate change, like I've mentioned. But we try, insecurity has also caused some reduction in some areas. But up till now, we are making sure that between the government, the private sector, production does not stop or is not lowered to the point of having food shortage. The central bank is producing a lot of grains. We are, the private sector is, and so many areas. And this is what the government intend to hold on to. Price will be reduced, and perhaps we'll get to that point where I will tell you some of the measures that are currently being taken to make sure that there is a hold on the inflation. So we have no issue, but yes, we have some concerns on what is going on, especially with this flood. We are strategizing and putting in measures in place to make sure the farmland that we have lost or the crops during the current flooding will be made up in some areas of the country, will get involved in dry season farming and all that. I guess I'm probably moving ahead of you.
Yes.
So let me say, we'll continue production. We will make sure it does not fall to where we'll have food shortage, because food shortage is the issue more than inflation.
Yes, exactly. You know, we're not there expecting to have it, you know, but we just have to take precautionary measures.
That's what
we've had this kind of flood in 2012,
right?
But we didn't die of hunger in 2013,
right?
So the next year we'll be okay. But I'm also concerned about the issue of food preservation. We have so many agricultural produce that are perishable,
right?
You know, crops, fruits, and what have you. And you know, I think we only have one gamma irradiation plant in this country, you know, located in Sheda, you know, Shesko, down there, maybe about a kilometer after Gwagwalada. Right, but it is dysfunctional. I got to know about that some 10 years ago, or even more than that. Right, and we don't have any other gamma irradiation plant elsewhere in this country. Now, if we don't have that, what is the possibility of ensuring that farmers get their produce preserved in terms of that? I know Nigeria never paid attention to that aspect. I just want to raise it to see whether it's captured, you know, in your program. Another aspect I'd like you to talk about is what is the responsibility of the river basin authorities in this country, and what are they doing with the infrastructure in those river basin authorities, you know, with respect to what should be their primary contribution to national development, you know, as it concerns the Ministry of Agriculture.
Well, they're really working very hard, and we have good working relationship with them. 3 ministries I mentioned, the key: water resources, one that is responsible for all these river basins, Ministry of Environment, and then Agric. We are working together. The river basin just provide the needed water for especially dry season farming. Also some other dams that the Ministry of Water Resources will construct and provide water for irrigation, and that's where the ministry is moving very seriously. To be able to maintain production all year round is the key, really, to maintain the production of grains and other nutritious food that is required. So river basins are providing, and they are doing their jobs. Of course, maintenance of flood, which is what we are talking about, that is really under the responsibility of water resources that we work together with. So all in all, like I said, is about collaboration. Unless we work with them, we will not have the irrigation water that we need. Yes, under our rural development department, we also construct earth dams. We also provide solar boreholes that will also provide water for dry season farming. But the large amount of water that you need, the infrastructure, is something that is under the Ministry of Water Resources that we work together, all in an effort to make sure we maintain production. And you know, agriculture today is not just about food security and nutrition security. With Mr. President's vision, is a business. We are moving into agribusiness as well as food production. And there are a number of programs and projects that are upcoming. Next week, the president will be launching a special program that is called SAPZ, Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zone. This will work in 2 ways. One, provide food security and nutrition. Second, industrialization, because you will produce an industrial city where you have industries, where you have agri-commodities around the city that is providing input.
Kind of cluster.
Exactly. Of especially smallholder farmers. We are very particular with smallholder farmers. You know why? Because they produce about 70% of the food that we currently are using in this country.
How do they preserve them?
Okay, we have the silos. Now, the perishable ones, of course, we are providing access to market. We are building market. The ministry also build market so that they can quickly get for both, for just simple marketing and then processing. And we are providing some storage areas. Yes, preservation is a concern, and we are doing everything possible, working with international organizations to have this storage areas, coolers that can keep certain perishable food good so that they don't go bad.
Okay, I had to raise that gamma radiation.
Oh yeah, we have
just because I know that that gamma radiation is dysfunctional for some time, and again at a point some persons wanted to privatize that gamma radiation plant, and I'm not sure it succeeded at that time. It didn't succeed. They wanted to privatize it. Such a gigantic project. If you see the gamma radiation plant and the facilities there, sophisticated equipment, for preservation of perishable agricultural produce. Well,
we are working with the nuclear agency. In fact, we held 2 meetings on this gamma irradiation, and they are working on that thing. So it's not privatized, it's still under the government, and we are working with them to do that.
Okay, Honorable Ministers, thank you very much. When we return from this short break, of course, we deal with some other interesting aspects, including matters that you have already raised. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on NTA's network service. We'll take a short break now.
What we face mostly now are flashes of cowardly attacks from the rump of groups that have been routed in one location or the other, moving to another to give the false impression that they are still strong. Our ultimate goal is to eliminate them altogether and restore total and lasting peace over every inch of the Nigerian soil. Sounding tall, but take it home. We are determined to ensure that every inch of the Nigerian soil is safe. That determination is there. The order has been given. But we shall continue to protect the lives and property of Nigerians and foreigners in our midst. We shall continue to work for the peace of the nation and deter elements that constitute threats to the people. We shall bear the full powers of the government to secure every inch of our land. We shall not rest until peace is fully restored to Nigeria.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Everywhere you go, from banks to hospitals to public offices, mass transit stations, airports, and even telecommunication centers, senior citizens are treated as nuisances. They are not. They are senior members of our society, and they deserve the utmost respect. We shouldn't be having our aged fathers and mothers standing in long queues to withdraw their monies at banks. Our retired senior citizens shouldn't be caught standing in buses for lack of seats or chasing after one just to get to their destination. Senior citizens shouldn't have to sit long hours in hospital corridors with no geriatric specialist to attend to them. Our senior citizens deserve better treatment from all of us. They deserve to be listened to. They are deserving of seat reservations on public buses and priority attendance in public spaces. As young people, we are quick to say, no one owes you. This is not true. We owe the elderly members of our society a helping hand, our services, and respect. Age-friendly societies have more senior citizens enjoying good health, living safely, and engaging in meaningful community work than those who do not. Dignifying age-friendly services for senior citizens.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels. Leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
We've been trying our best to contain the situation, and in our operations, we've been able to make a lot of recoveries. We've been able to also arrest suspects that are involved in this kind of activities, and we've been able to also recover particularly arms and ammunition from those who are carrying it unlawfully and disturbing the peace of the people. But generally, our morale in the Nigerian police is always guided by our commitment to do what we have sworn to do. Peace and security must be looked into as a priority by all, to look at security as the business of all of us.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA's network service. Honorable Minister of Health, the President, in the course of this third retreat, did say in a sense that this is legacy consolidation time, as it were, and ministers have the opportunity of preparing their handover notes just about 7 months before the administration leaves office and the new administration comes on. Will you, from your own perspective, are you hopeful that the legacy will be one that is of a wow effect?
Well, I hope so. What we have done in this administration is to try and take a lot of things forward. As I said, the expansion of availability of health care, to make it more universal, to have so that more people have access to health care, to improve the quality, and to also to introduce new services that will improve outcomes for health. For much of this, we have laid a foundation stone, which I hope that the next administration will pick up and continue from. For others, but there's none of which you can say that you have reached the final station. But even in the healthcare area, we are trying to encourage private investment in our tertiary hospitals to build amenity wards. Amenity wards where the hospital provides services, medical services, and then the investor now provides the hospitality for the amenity wards. Again, to improve the confidence they have and the comfort that certain people require, which they think they don't get here. There are people who are very satisfied with the healthcare delivery, but not with the housekeeping part of it. So we have 2 or 3 hospitals have already done that, and we're encouraging more of them to come in. So on the whole, the foundation stone, the directions have been laid down by the Buhari administration, and we hope that any successive administration will build on that.
One way, I mean, Kirian, to measure this will be say, I don't know whether you have the numbers, but probably you should work towards that. In 2015, when President Buhari came into office, life expectancy in Nigeria was X number of years. In 2023, living in office, life expectancy X number of years. Do we have those numbers? And now at 2022, do we have the numbers?
Well, I definitely can tell you that it has improved. It's a function of how many people have access to healthcare. It's a function of how many people you can take care of who will have lost their lives had you not intervened. So bringing in medical emergency services, for example, is a big step forward in that. In that people will have lost their lives in accidents or in childbirth, or even children who get sick and will have lost their lives. They are now going to be saved. I mean, the 3 killers of children are pneumonia, malaria, and diarrhea. So if you have emergency services, they can be taken care of very easily. They don't require that much. So the introduction of these new capacities for treatment definitely, theoretically, will have led to increase in life expectancy.
Yeah, Honorable Minister, you mentioned something earlier, concerning converting brain drain to brain gain, right? And would you say that Nigeria today has sufficient medical personnel in all facets of medical service that it requires to carry on, with the health services delivery in the country?
There's high mobility among medical professionals, nurses and doctors, and it's not affecting only Nigeria, it's affecting other countries too. Even the UK mentioned that many of their doctors are going to Australia and New Zealand where the pay is more. And in Nigeria, it's not just starting. It started in the 80s when Nigerian doctors and professors were going to Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and so on. So that's not a new phenomenon. But what we are trying to do now is to use digital technology to be able to still have access to the skills and knowledge they have abroad. So they can do remote consultations. They can work with us remotely. We can have platforms by which our Nigerian experts here in Nigeria and those abroad can collaborate to offer services to citizens, specialized services, particularly diagnostics and also in medical evaluation.
Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Usagi Anere, would like to appreciate you for being our guests on the program this morning. We understand you have another engagement at this hour, so thanks a lot. We do hope you'll oblige us when next. We'll, of course, call on you to discuss other issues in the health sector.
Well, thank you. My great pleasure.
All right. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Let's bring in again the Honorable Minister of Agric and Natural Resources, Dr. Mohammed Abubakar. Honorable Minister, you were talking about the SAPZ. That's Agricultural Processing Zone.
Yes.
What is this whole idea of SAPZ? Is it for value addition? Tell us something. What's Naval?
The SAPZ is a Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zone. That is what the SAPZ is. And it's a concept of bringing together an aggregation of industries within one city, one complex. You can call it agro-industrial city. Within that city, you have all the amenities. First of all, you have schools, you have hospitals, you have living quarters, and then you have the industries. Outside, within that industrial city, you have cluster of farmers, especially small-scale farmers, medium. Large-scale farmers can bring produce from as far as wherever they can. But what will make it easy is we intend to have these SAPZs in every single state of the Federation, including the FCT. Now we are starting with 8 states, including FCT. We have Kano, Kaduna, we have Oyo, we have Ogun, several of them. And will be launched by His Excellency Mr. President on the 24th of this month. It is starting with $540 million coming from a collaboration between the African Development Bank, Islamic Development Bank, and one other big bank. And this also is a collaboration between state government and the federal government. The state government will express interest. Currently, we have 8, and there are 13 more states that have expressed interest, are coming in the second phase. This will do a number of things. One, will increase food and nutrition security, will increase industrialization, will create wealth, will reduce poverty, generate millions of employment. We visited Ethiopia, one of the countries that currently have already established these SAPZs. And when I went, I became a lot more interested and like, wow, you go and when you see the number of people coming out of those industrial complex, you wonder. You go in there, you see this company processing cashew, this company processing this, that, just a great deal of production and industrialization going on. This is something that will be a game changer to the economy of this country. So that is the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zone. Already, what is really even exciting about it is countries have expressed interest. For example, Kuwaiti funds, they have already promised $100 million and so many others. So it can be a country, it can be individual companies that will come and build all this. So it's something that really will turn things around. That's why we are so excited about it.
Yeah, it's really very interesting. I saw that in Indonesia. You know,
Thank
you have
you.
about 43 agencies in one enclave.
Yes.
Right. And they synergize
Right.
into production.
Right.
You come from production process A to
Right.
production process B.
Exactly.
In the same vicinity, and it goes round until the final product is made.
Right.
Beautiful idea. But
Right.
you know what has been our problem in this country? You know, is always the implementation aspect of whatever dream that we have.
Right.
What you have just seen, the conceptualization when it is being practiced, right? And you would want it to happen to Nigeria. We would want to see that. But what worries me, or what should be worrisome actually, is the aspect of implementation, the participatory aspect of it. How Nigerians be identify with that and not bring corruption in it, and all manner of shoddy deals that may, bring some kind of a negation of the objective for which it's being planned. So how do we, work around that to make sure the Nigerian factor does not come in here?
I think I have an answer for that. Yes, you are right. We have issues if you are talking about project or this or equipment maintenance. Yes, we have issue of implementation continuity. But you know what? There is always a turning point for anything and for any country. And I think now is the turning point for Nigeria. We have seen perhaps countries that shouldn't have even come close to us in terms of some certain developmental project. So the time has come now, and especially getting a government that is really interested in turning the economy. Of course, when Mr. President came, is about growing the economy, security, economic transformation. A lot of this have taken place, have happened. The economy is growing, the security is being provided, the transformation is going on. So we have seen what the SAPZ can do. Nigeria is a good place for investment. The world has realized that now, and we have gotten promises of that. We cannot continue to do things the same way. If Ethiopia can do this, if Gabon can do this, Indonesia can do this, the investors that we are calling, especially, remember, this is not a government, entirely a government project. Yes, if it's just government, yes, you can have some level of concern, because we just talk about the bureaucracy, which also is dropping. But it's a private sector, government, state, and federal collaboration. I can assure you that this will be a much better project than one that is either just government, state, or just federal government. It's a collaboration of 3 or 4. In fact, there are countries that want to even use the SAPZ to grow food that they will buy right from there and transport to their own country.
So what the president is launching is like a pilot phase.
Yes.
Because
not pilot, the whole project, but starting with 8 pilot states.
8 pilot states. Right. I imagine that there will be issues around land acquisition. In the
yes. Yes.
I imagine, for instance, there will also be issues around the design.
Right.
Of the various complexes.
Right.
Acquisition of equipment and storage and delivery and utilization. I think that's the whole gamut of matters you're dealing with. But is this an elevated form of value addition, or does this intend to ultimately knock off the arguments that had previously been made with regard to driving up cottage industries to be the first port of value addition to our agricultural produce?
It's everything encompassing. Land issues, state that express interest, you provide the land. You don't provide the land, we take the project to another state. It's as simple as that, because of course state, according to our system, own the land or are responsible for the land, and we do not have any problem with state providing those land, not just for the SAPZ, but even for the NLTP, even for the LPRES. All the states that have expressed interest have already even provided the land. So land acquisition is not going to be a problem at all. The state are interested in that. Value addition, yes, this is all about value addition. I'll give you an example. Today we are the largest producer of cassava in the world. What is the value chain? What is the value addition in cassava? I just came back from Brazil not too long ago. They produce cassava. They are doing more with cassava than we are doing here. And I have already seen some value addition. In fact, beyond anything else, I ate an omelette, cassava-based omelette.
But Honorable Minister, one of your predecessors, propagated cassava bread in this country. It got to a point, and it dropped. But with this administration,
it's not dropping.
We didn't hear much about cassava, cassava bread.
Here is what it is. Already we have regulation that requires even the input of at least 5% of cassava flour into bread. That is somewhere to start with.
We have had that. I've eaten that. We tested it. We tested the one that was.
Did you like it?
Of course, yes.
Of course, yes. So now we are making it as a rule. We are really increasing on value addition. That is where you make the money. Like I said, if we are to increase the value addition to cassava, and I intend to bring this, not just, I'm giving an example of omelette based with cassava, which is very delicious, and so many others that we have seen. We'll bring it. We have the department that is responsible for all this value addition, and we will propagate that. And that is one way to increase the productivity, the income in one particular value chain.
Okay.
All right. I just want, Honorable Minister, thank you. I mean, you said, let me get you clear again. You said you took omelette made out of cassava.
No, cassava-based omelette. So here I can just tell you quickly. It's a cassava flour.
Okay.
You mix it, you kind of stir fry it, and then you have your omelette on it.
On top. Oh,
so
all right.
The cassava is the base.
Cassava is like a dough for it.
Thank you.
Because I was wondering whether you were now telling us that there had been a change to the saying that for you to make an omelette, you have to break eggs. Honorable Minister, very quickly, we are pressed for time.
Yes.
You were going to talk about food inflation. Now, this is a chief concern for Nigerians at
Right.
this time. The money we are spending out of our pockets as individuals, as families, and as entities, the money we're spending on food is high. And yet, we say that we're not food insecure. Affordability is becoming a challenge. Are we going to make any impact on these numbers in terms of what Nigerians are spending out of their pocket on food?
Yes, we will. I have mentioned briefly some of the reasons why there is this inflation, and it's not just in Nigeria. The first one that I mentioned, during the COVID, the last 2 years, a lot of supply chains have been disrupted, have been broken down, and the effect is still ongoing. When I was going to Brazil, I flew over the Panama Canal, and this is just about 5-6 weeks ago. There are hundreds of ships still at the mouth of the canal, the entrance to the canal to pass through. They are loaded with all kinds of raw materials, with grains, with equipment that have not gotten to their destination. And so production for whatever that is being stuck there on the sea is reducing the supply of these commodities. And simple economics is what? Supply and demand. When the supply is less, you have higher prices. When is enough, you have stabilized or even diluted prices. So these are some of the things why the inflation is going. But we are taking some measures to make sure we produce enough food like this.
All right, Honorable Minister, thank you. I mean, we can't get enough of this, but I know we might have time in the future to go back to this. You know, we had you last when you were still the Minister of Environment, but we're glad to have you here today again. All right, Dr. Mohammed Mahmoud Abubakar, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. We thank you for coming here this morning. All right,
You're welcome.
Okay, that's it for us on Good Morning Nigeria today. We appreciate your being with us. Join us again tomorrow, same time, 7 in the morning. I'm Kingsley Osadona.
And I'm Nigerian. Thank you for watching.
Latest entrant, latest technology. Welcome to Intel 4G LTE Advanced and experience super fast internet access today. Visit intel.com.ng or any of our stores in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt to get started. Intel. Live more.
Issues in the sports sector remain one of the most debated among Nigerians due to the passion, followership, government involvement, impact on Nigeria's external image and our national life in the sports parliament. The NTA offers Nigerians deep views on issues with experts in the sports sector, offering in-depth analysis, insight and foresight towards elevating Nigerian sports to the zenith of the sports parliament. Sports Parliament, a unique platform for sports discussions, showing live on the NTA. Keep a date with the parliamentarians. You guys have it.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Welcome to the Nigerian Navy today. I am Jibrim Baba Ndachi. One of the national security challenges successive administrations in Nigeria has confronted is oil theft and other criminalities in the Nigerian maritime domain. Working with other security services and security agencies, Nigerian Navy as the lead service has remained consistent in confronting this national security menace. This has been done through operations and exercises. One of such ongoing operations is Operation Dakata de Barao. This episode of the Nigerian Navy Today shall focus on these and other regular segments of the program. Please stay with us.
The Chief of the Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Awa Zubairu Gambo, is in Paris, France, to participate at the ongoing Euro Naval 2022, a major naval and maritime exhibition in Europe. With over half a century of history, the biennial Euro Naval has established itself as the must-attend international event for naval defense. After hosting a digital edition in 2020 in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, Euro Naval 2022 is believed to return to the regular fair format and schedule. Vice Admiral Awa Zubairu Gambo, accompanied by Rear Admiral Hamza Kauje, Director of Naval Information and spokesman of the Nigerian Navy, Commodore Adedotun Ayovon, Defense Attaché to France, Group Captain Ganiu, and other senior naval officers. One of the sidelines from the four-day event was a meeting and talks of the Chief of the Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Awa Zubairu Gambo, with the French Chief of the Naval Staff, L'Admiral Pierre Vandier, on day 2 of the Euro Naval 2022 on Wednesday, 19th October 2022. In line with naval tradition, there was an exchange of gifts between the two naval chiefs. With over 450,000 exhibitors and 25,000 professional visitors are attending the Euro Naval exhibition to enjoy a showcase that is at the cutting edge of innovation, naval and aircraft, defense infrastructure, and naval architecture, weapons and ammunition, maritime security, communication and training services are all part of the comprehensive assortment. A recent addition to the show is a Cyber Naval Hub, which features the latest advancements in cybersecurity. Participants and exhibiting companies have the opportunity to not only meet with professional peers from all over the world, but also to present their offers to the elite of the political, military, and industrial spheres. The 4-day event, which started on 18th October 2022, is expected to come to a close on Friday, 21st October 2022.
This flag, as I always want to educate some of our learners and this is Black Charlie. And in the naval balance, in the international code, Black Charlie means we are ready to go. So once I wave this, it means the whole of Nigerian Navy is ready to go.
And this marked the flag-off of an operation of the Nigerian Navy in collaboration with the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, NNPCL, codenamed Operation Dakada de Barao, meaning Operation Stop the Thief in Hausa language, on Friday, 1st April 2022 at the Federal Ocean Terminal Jetty, One, Rivers State. In the last 7 months, the operation, which is aimed at curbing crude oil theft and illegal oil bunkering with a view to ensuring the economic prosperity of Nigeria, has made tremendous strides. The Nigerian Navy operations bases comprising the Nigerian Navy ship NNS Pathfinder, NNS Delta, NNS Jubilee, NNS Sorrow, NNS Lugard, Forward Operating Base FOB Formoso, FOB Escravos, FOB Igbokoda, FOB Boni, and Naval Outpost Onitsha are actively involved in the operation. through deployment of various Nigerian Navy platforms to aggressively patrol to curb the menace of crude oil theft and illegal oil bunkering within Nigeria's maritime environment, has been sustained by the Nigerian Navy and other security agencies. So far, Operation Dakada Barao has made significant progress and recorded successes on its primary assignment. Within the first few weeks of the operation, the Nigerian Navy ship NNS Delta deactivated an illegal refining site around Sarah Creek, which had 16 ovens, 16 metal storage tanks, and 3 pits filled with about 500,000 liters of illegally refined diesel, as well as 700,000 liters of stolen crude oil, a generator, and 4 pumping machines in Warri. Another site at Asogbo Creek, also in Warri, was discovered with 6 ovens, 12 metal storage tanks, and 5 large pits, all containing about 600,000 liters of stolen crude oil, including 200,000 liters of illegally refined diesel and about 150,000 liters of sludge. NNS Victory in Calabar raided a tanker garage along Harbour Road and seized a storage tank containing about 45,000 liters of suspected illegally refined diesel. Also, a tanker laden with 33,000 liters of suspected locally refined AGO was seized and the owner was arrested. About 58 drums of locally refined AGO were also seized. The Nigerian Navy ship NNS Pathfinder on 1st May 2022 conducted swamp buggy operations in the Cowthorne Channel to clear identified illegal refining sites. The base intercepted and arrested 12 suspects in 3 communities of Isaka, Tongolonsoju, and Soko, where reports indicated that 2 of the communities served as critical enablers to the saboteurs. The swamp buggy operations and other raids continued for another 2 weeks in several creeks within the region and witnessed seizures of over 6 million liters of oil products and stolen crude oil, with the arrest of more than 20 suspects, all handed over to prosecuting agencies. This is in addition to the confiscation of several pieces of refining equipment. Furthermore, records from the month of May 2022 indicated that over 6 billion naira worth of products was denied oil thieves. A breakdown showed that about 132,625 liters of DKP, 6,042,187 liters of AGO, 180,000 liters of PMS, 66,000 liters of low-pour fuel oil, and 180,000 liters of sludge were intercepted. Similarly, 28 arrests were made and the suspects were handed over to the appropriate agencies for prosecution. In addition, 66 wooden boats, 1 market boat, 6 speedboats, 6 trucks, a Ford model bus, 3 tankers, and a Toyota Camry car were confiscated. In the month of May alone, 36 illegal refining sites, 232 ovens, 308 storage tanks, and 104 dugout pits were discovered and treated accordingly. Despite remarkable achievements recorded in the first 2 months of the operation, the Navy did not relent in its efforts, but instead vowed to sustain the fight against crude oil theft, illegal refining sites, and illegal bunkering. Hence, the Nigerian Navy, working with other security agencies and maritime stakeholders, clamped down heavily on the suppliers and conveyors of illegally and locally refined products. The total approximated value of products denied oil thieves in the month of July 2022, precisely from 1st to 14th July 2022, stood at 1,159,600,000 94,676 naira 4 kobo only. A breakdown showed that 1,411,540 liters of AGO and around 18,598 barrels of crude oil were intercepted. Similarly, the total approximated value of products denied oil thieves from 1st to 21st August 2022 showed that is 1,401,890,262 naira 40 kobo only worth of products were denied oil thieves. Also recorded were seizures and confiscations of 215 metal storage tanks, 23 wooden boats, 2 speedboats, 13 pits, 171 ovens, 26 IRS, 2 pumping machines, 1 generator, and 1 outboard engine. An approximated value of products denied oil thieves between 12th to 18th September 2022 stood at 421,925,827 naira 97 kobo only. The following seizures and confiscations were also recorded: 72 metal storage tanks, 7 wooden boats, 2 speedboats, 31 pits, 64 ovens, 64 IRS, 2 pumping machines, 1 generator, 1 tanker, and 2 vehicles. On 26th September 2022, NNS Delta identified an illegal refining site at Egwa around Opobene Creek in the Warri South local government area of Delta State. The site had a total of 16 ovens, 36 metal storage tanks, and 3 dugout pits, cumulatively filled with about 201.26 BBLS of suspected stolen crude. Consequently, the site was deactivated while the product was handled appropriately. Similarly, on 30th September 2022, the base identified an illegal refining site around Bennett Island in the Warri South local government area of Delta State. The site had 5 storage tanks and 7 dugout pits, cumulatively filled with about 450,000 liters of suspected stolen crude oil. Accordingly, the site was handled appropriately while 2 pumping machines were recovered. Furthermore, on 3rd October 2022, the base, acting on credible intelligence, discovered a compound used for storage of suspected illegally refined products at Eneren Road in Warri South local government area of Delta State. The compound had about 120 sacks cumulatively filled with about 3,000 liters of illegally refined AGO. The products were handled appropriately. FOB Escravos on 26 September 2022 identified a new illegally refining site off the Benin River along Odi village in Warri North local government area of Delta State. The site had 3 dugout pits cumulatively filled with about 200,000 liters of stolen crude oil. The site was deactivated and the products were handled appropriately. Also on 27th and 28th September 2022, the base identified and intercepted some illegal refining sites at Opuama village off Benin River in Warri North local government area of Delta State, where the wooden boats and products were appropriately handled. And on 29th September 2022, NNS Pathfinder around Alakiri General Area deactivated an oven and 2 reservoirs. Also, the base conducted swamp buggy ops at Market Square, Upomakiri community from 1st to 2nd October 2022. The criminals set part of the camp ablaze in order to halt the team advance. Notwithstanding the resistance, the patrol team subsequently dominated the camp and dismantled 19 ovens, 6 storage tanks, and 12 reservoirs. Similarly, the base proceeded to Alakiri General Area, where 7 large reservoirs and 6 storage tanks were dismantled. Additionally, on 2nd October 2022, NNS Victory intercepted 3 fuel tankers around Awi Junction in Odukbani local government area of Cross River State, with an unspecified quantity of product suspected to be legally refined AGO. A total of 14 illegal refining sites, 72 metal storage tanks, 9 wooden boats, 29 dugout pits, 51 ovens, and 25 reservoirs were appropriately handled during the period under review. Additionally, oil thieves were denied about 16,616.35 barrels of crude oil and 608,000 liters of illegally refined automobile gas oil, amounting to 1,060,545,672 naira 42 kobo only. It is pertinent to note that not all the operational achievements have been presented here. But worthy of note is that within the 6 months of flag-off Operation Dakada de Barao has so far made tremendous and commendable efforts aimed at stopping crude oil theft and illegal refining sites, denying oil thieves and economic saboteurs a total approximated value of products between April to October 2022. The cumulative figure is put at 32,368,480,214 naira 45 kobo only, with the arrest of 107 suspects and 12 vessels, deactivated 293 legal refining sites and 4,582 storage facilities. Also on record is the arrest of 354 wooden boats, demobilization of 50 vehicles, seizure of 50 speedboats, 249 pumping machines, 163 outboard engines, 8 welding machines, and 32 generator sets. The Nigerian Navy, as always, will continue to live up to its mandate of securing the nation's maritime environment and the protection of its oil and gas infrastructures for the economic prosperity of the country.
Our personality of the week is a member of Nigerian Defense Academy Regular Course 26 and was commissioned sub-lieutenant on 1st January 1983. He attended several military courses at home and abroad, including the sub-lieutenant technical course in India and the amphibian warfare course in the United States of America. He trained as a pilot at 3013 Primary Flying School at Nigerian Air Force Base in Kaduna and as underwater specialist at Underwater Warfare School, NNS Kora, Lagos, respectively. An alumnus of Harvard Kennedy School, our personality of the week has earned several prestigious awards, including the Ecommon Medal Award. Born on 27 September 1960, our personality of the week is Cross River State-born 3-star admiral and the 20th indigenous chief of the Naval Staff and currently Nigerian ambassador to Ghana, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ikwe Ibas, retired.
I left service and launched myself into another service. And so I'm still on active service in the year. And then wrap my engagements and then the interactions in the diplomatic community is what is keeping me the way I am. having been in a career for 40 years, certainly I would have grown to be part of that system. And when you take 40 years of your life, there's just no way you can compensate for that somewhere else. Yeah. Well, the discipline, the regimentation, and of course the friends, the colleagues. Yeah. So in a field where you're having to make new friends, make new contacts, and of course from the military to diplomacy, two different fields, but closely related. Certainly, there's a chief of naval staff on our conference. The admirals meet, and that has been happening over the years. Yesterday, we just commissioned a project that we also had. The meetings need not be very formal, they be informal, like yesterday. And the invitation of whoever the chief is, and the parties are always very much available to meet and person or in groups, to make their contributions to whatever issues that are urgent attention and require urgent attention. The basic challenge in the administrator or leader in Nigeria or anywhere for that matter will have is resources, financial resources. Government's budget, and I think there are so many competing needs that have to be met. If we had enough, I think we would have been able to go beyond where we have been. I think what I will always advise is that if you have a list of things to do, you then decide which ones you need to give priority to. The Nigerian Navy is doing great. The Nigerian Navy, as a member of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, is doing great and is well respected everywhere in the world. Of course, every individual or group of persons or institutions will certainly have some of the challenges in the course of carrying out their responsibilities. And so, maybe one time or the other, may have a challenge. That does not deny its excellent role, its as well as its capabilities. The sea-level capabilities of the Navy is one of those areas that was captured in the transformation plan, the recapitalization is a developmental objective of having the fleet recapitalized with appropriate ships, different ships for different roles. For a country like Nigeria, having one LST is not just it, but having the ceiling capability is one very key aspect of our, I call it strategy. And so we needed to start somewhere to fill that gap. And we were also talking with the Indian Navy through their, their shipyards to see if they could build an logistics ship for us. Just like we also have the hydrographic ship, which is also an aspect we thought we needed to address. And so the moment we had the blessing of government and of funding, certainly we proceeded to get a vessel that will also be able to carry out the role that it's performing now.
Until next week, when we come your way again, please support the Nigerian Navy and other security agencies in securing Nigerian maritime domain. I am Jibrim Baba Ndachi. Onward together.
President, but rather restructuring NYSC to optimize diaspora participation, says Finance Minister. Euro-Asia markets head for negative open as economic uncertainty continues. Yen inches near 150 against the US dollar. And on Commodity Watch, gold at 3-week lows as dollar bond yields stay elevated. This is Business Express on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Liakating Babatunde, your guide. A very good morning to you, and we begin the business of the day by informing you that President Muhammadu Buhari has formally signed into law the Nigeria Startup Bill 2022, initiated by the executive inputs from the nation's tech startups ecosystem. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the legislation seeks to harness the potential of the nation's digital economy and position Nigeria as a leading tech hub in Africa.
With the government policies we have in place before assenting to the bill today, a lot has been achieved when it comes to providing the enabling environment for our young innovators. This law is all about to consolidate and to provide the legal and a strategic framework for the growth of the sector. For example, today in Africa, we have around 7 unicorns. 5 of them originated from Nigeria. Unicorn is an ICT company, a local ICT company that has a market value of a minimum of 1 billion USD. And all 5 of them attained this position of unicorn during the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. We visited each and every zone of Nigeria. We engaged our young innovators. We collected their inputs and we accommodated all these inputs into the law.
The second Niger Bridge is set to open for traffic as construction.
Both sides now unimpeded, but it's just to finance all of them at the same time. So perhaps we want to redesignate the nomenclature to uncompleted projects because we have not forsaken them. They were designed for certain constituencies. As the revenues improve, priorities also. So perhaps in choosing what we do, if you look at it, we shared with you the first time what we wanted to prioritize. We had 6 urgent priorities at that time, and you will also be able to glean them from the 9 priority areas of the conference of the retreat we just finished. One of our priorities was roads leading to ports, so that economy can move. We can congest seaports and the airports for efficiency of business.
Nigeria is not restructuring her debt. This was disclosed by the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, this Wednesday in Abuja. She said this while giving a breakdown of the over 20 trillion naira spending plan for the 2023 fiscal year. Zainab Ahmed also disclosed that the government is also considering restructuring of the NYSC to optimize diaspora participation. It is the last budget to be prepared by the President Muhammadu Buhari administration. The draft 2023 budget was prepared against the backdrop of continuing global challenges occasioned by lingering COVID-19 pandemic effects, as well as higher food and fuel prices due to the war in Ukraine. Revenue generation remains the major fiscal constraint of the Federation amid rising debt concerns. Total revenue available to fund the 2023 budget is estimated at 9.73 trillion naira. This includes the gross revenues of 63 government-owned enterprises totaling 3.48 trillion naira. 20% of projected revenues is expected to come from oil-related sources, while 80% is to be earned from non-oil sources.
Our solution is to just get out of this subsidy regime, whichever way you cut it. The regulators now, the midstream downstream regulatory authority has made a commitment that they are putting in place measures to be able to track the distribution of petroleum products to the fuel stations and report on the actual consumption.
Overall budget deficit is 10.78 trillion naira for the year 2023. representing 4.78% of GDP. The deficit is to be financed mainly by borrowings comprising domestic sources 7.04 trillion naira, foreign sources 1.76 trillion naira, multilateral and bilateral loans drawdowns 1.77 billion naira, and privatization proceeds 206.18 billion naira. Total public debt stood at 23.06% as of June 30, 2022. The government has no plans to restructure her debts, but what is certain for restructuring is a National Youth Service Corps, the NYSC.
Immediate past Director General of the NYSC began a process that was indicating that they have gone against the law and actually wanted to take people up on that. And our view is that that is discouraging the diasporas from coming back home and bringing investments, that instead we should redesign the program. If we have to amend the law, we will, and we're looking at doing that in the Finance Act, to enable the diaspora to come back anytime they are ready to be able to serve. We'll just change the condition of serving.
Critical sectors in the coming year include education at 10%, health 8%, defense, infrastructure and social development and poverty reduction programs. In Abuja. Of course, conversation on how the budget will look like is next. And I have with me Dr. Pachu Emmanuel. He is the Head Economic Policy Center for Management Development, CMD. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me for this program.
Thank you, Doctor. Perhaps we'll start by you talking to us on your take of the spending plan for next year.
The spending plan for 2023, as provided by the Financial Act 2022, is titled Fiscal Consolidation and Transition. When you look at the issue of fiscal consolidation, is that revenue generation has been a serious concern for the government.
Yeah.
How to deepening the revenue coming through tax and other sources. And in the last 2 years, the government have made significant progress in increasing the revenue generation, given the tax ratio to GDP, although it is still relatively low. So when the government is talking about fiscal consolidation, it's referring to that. And we also do know too that this is the last budget for this current government, and is a transition budget. It's a budget that the current government will spend half of it, and the other half will be spent by the incoming government. And that is clearly set in the tone of the budget.
Okay. This budget we're talking about will see something that has been in public discourse for a very long time, fuel subsidy ceased by the middle of next year. Do you see that happening? Are we ready to let go of petrol subsidy?
Let me speak about this fuel subsidy. Fuel subsidy is something that in the general public domain remain a very controversial issue.
Of course.
But within the economic thinking, they have a variant thinking to that. Certain things could be subsidized, as the case may be, depending on the importance attached to it. Then in that case, government can provide part of the cost, which is the subsidy. Over years, subsidy in Nigeria has been a controversial issue. But there is a remarkable something that happened recently, and that is the issue of making the NNPC a private company owned by the government, a limited company owned by the government. In that case, if they want to do business now, the issue of subsidy will not be handled by NNPC, but it has to be appropriated by the legislative arm of the government. And that brings the issue of fuel subsidy to the domain of the public and they will be at better position to debate on it. But I do know that the government provided, make provision for the subsidy for the parts is going to stay from January to June. But what will happen thereafter is what is going to be subject to a debate.
In the words of David Malpass last week, he told us specifically, that's the World Bank president, he told us that the subsidy regime is not helping the poor Nigerians, those who it is intended for. And he went ahead in the same breath to say that when prices increased globally, it ended up hurting Nigeria's economy because the whole income is being freighted away to pay for subsidies. And then we have a situation where the NNPC will no longer commit money to FAC, for instance, because they are now a public liability company, right?
Yeah.
So we generally have issues of generating income. Are we now facing the issue of where money will come from to spend next year, or how to service our debts next year?
Let me say something about the issue of IMF advice. Normally, when you borrow money from source to spend, it get to a certain stage, the lender will advise you, because if he doesn't advise you, the money is lending to you at stake. So IMF giving advice is what is expected, and more so, IMF conduct their activities in such a way that if they see that you are likely to enter into serious fiscal challenges, they provide advice. And certainly, they have looking at our items in our fiscal expenditure, our expenditure over years, and they have seen the item of fuel subsidy as an area that they will advise. But be it as it may, as a nation, if they advise you, it is now left for you to look at it and attach importance to the issue they are advising. Because the issue of fuel subsidy advice giving is not as easy as that because of the poverty level. The poverty level is much, and when you talk about transport is a major economic activities that cut across the poor and the rich. So if that is subsidized as it had been, or as it is, it means that many will benefit. But the issue now, the IMF is raising that, well, if you remove this subsidy, you can make it the funds available for other alternatives which can help you. So it's left for the economists to take a look at it and do the analysis very well.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now in the coming year, we're seeing the chunk of the expenditure going to education and security. Could it have gone to any other sector?
Education and security. Let me take the issue of security. Of course, as an individual, as a local government, as a state, as a community, when the issue of security becomes a serious threat, you leave all other things and face the security issue. You have no alternative than to tackle the security, because if the security is not handled, you will not be able to engage in economic activities. Yes, you do need resources gotten from the economic activities to spend on the security. But if the security is not handled, you wouldn't be able to generate enough money. You will not be able to even engage in economic activities, talking about generating income or growing income, as the case may be. So priority given to security in this in our own circumstance is a proper thing, and I think it's the best way to go, given the circumstance we have. Having said that, does not mean that how the fund is used is a different thing altogether.
Of course.
Because when fund is allocated, how it used become an issue. And if it is not used in a manner to achieve the target objectives, then you now bring the issue of inefficiency, improper allocations, and all other things, which is a different thing completely. And you can only do that when you go into the details of how the money is being spent. That is about the security. Now, coming to the issue of education. Education is fundamental and is the human capital formation. And the human capital formation is about the future. So if you are not, if you do not invest in education now, you will definitely pay for it in the near future. So I think investing in education, security and education, taking a greater share of our budget is proper.
Okay, so before I let you go, the recent weeks we've had torrential rainfalls, flooding waters. You talked about farming activities while talking about security, but we now have another threat, the environment. The country is flooded basically. What do you think should be the steps to be taken to ensure that we don't have the disaster that we are seeing potentially coming? That is hunger, lack of food, and of course the health wise. Thankfully, health is number 3 in the spending calendar, but I mean, we might have an epidemic on our hands.
Yes, climate change is a topical issue at the international level and at the local level here too. It is an issue that we are confronting with daily. The issue of floods can also be traced back to issue of climate change, although there are some immediate causes, but also to it can be attributed. And these are 2022 fiscal acts which make provision for 2023 budget spending also took into consideration the issue of climate change as well as the flood. It is some of items and some of the spendings are being allocated to that to take care of that. But having said that, I want to say that either River Benue or River Niger is not new to us in Nigeria.
Yeah.
River Niger and River Benue has even been here before we were living at the bank, so we should be able to know what can really happen from River Niger and River Benue and adequately prepare for it.
So that's not just federal government now.
It's not a short-term issue. What we are having here is something that has not been taken care for a very long time. If River Niger and River Benue have a flow up till the southern part of the country, by now the country should have been able to know how to handle the water that flow through that, so that people will not be affected. Having said that, the responsibility cannot be put on government alone, because as a private individual and whatever, the first line of defense is you yourself. The first line of thinking about your life is you yourself. And you should also do that thinking too, because the river has been there.
Okay.
The 2 rivers has been there.
Okay. Most sincerely, thank you, Dr. Pachu, for coming on the program. Dr. Emmanuel, thank you very much, of CMD.
Thank you very much, Leah, for inviting me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir. So we move straight now to our Surviving COVID-19 series.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
I sell bags, all type of bags, laptop, traveling bags, any kind of bag you want.
How long have you been into this business?
12 years now.
Please, can you tell us the challenges you faced during COVID?
We did not even give us a space. There is no space to come out to say, this is what you are doing. Everybody stay at home. So we need to obey the sit-at-home order. Apart from COVID, we still have to talk about exchange rates because it's too much now. We cannot do it as usual. As in, price of things are not really coming down. It's very high from the international markets, the local markets. So it's not really encouraging.
Do you hear about government schools, CBN?
Normally, but we the marketers, nobody has ever come here to say we have a loan somewhere or we have this somewhere. Maybe it might only be from man no man.
Would you like to apply?
Apply. It depends on the kind of how we return. I think we can apply. I think we can even go higher than this if we see the money. Going to China is not our problem. People travel to China anywhere to bring their goods.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
It's been 3 straight days of losses at the NGX. Of course, yesterday was 2.31% negative fall. But then we move all the way to Asia, where Neka Oko will be giving us details of another negative market openings.
Mostly as economic fears weigh. The Hang Seng Index in Hong Kong paid most of earlier losses and traded 1.17% lower after dipping 3%, hitting its lowest level since May 2009. The Shanghai Composite in mainland China was 0.31% lower, while in Japan the Nikkei 225 lost 0.92%. European markets opened negative as investors assessed continuing economic uncertainty. The DAX dipped 0.42%, UK FTSE declined 0.09%, and the French CAC was flat. In the US, stocks also depreciated in early morning deals after surging treasury yields ended a 2-day rally for the major averages. Futures linked to the Dow Jones Industrial Average slipped 0.15%, while S&P 500 futures lost 0.52%.